So today we have a special guest. He played in the major leagues for 9 seasons and for organizations such as the Boston Red Sox, the New York Yankees, and the Chicago Cubs. Some of you may know him for hitting his first major league home run off of one of the best pitchers in the game still, Clayton Kershaw, in 2009 as a Red. Others may remember him for being the first Red Sox player to record a game-winning RBI in his club debut April 20th, 2010. Today, he continues to use his experiences in multiple other ways on and off the field to help others around him. And we're going to learn more about that shortly in our conversation coming up. I'm very excited and will try my hardest not to geek out, especially considering that he is the first professional athlete I've ever interviewed. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, this is Mr. Darnell McDonald. Darnell, good afternoon, sir. Thank you for taking this time out on the West Coast to join me today. How are you?
I'm good, Nidu. Thanks for having me. How you doing, man?
I'm good. It's been a great day. I can't complain, nothing to complain about, and I'm enjoying staying present right now with you. So, with every interview, I like to start out with a segment called Coming in Hot, where I ask you 5 fire questions, and you just answer as quick as you can. Okay?
All right. Let's try it out.
All right, here we go. So the first one, New York or Chicago style pizza?
Chicago.
Yeah. Team you enjoyed playing for more in the AL East, the Red Sox or the Yankees?
Red Sox.
In the NL Central, Chicago Cubs or the Cincinnati Reds?
Go Cubs.
Favorite place to play on the field in your career, the outfield grass or the pitcher's mound?
The pitcher's mound.
And
no expectation.
And last but not least, which do you prefer more, playing or coaching?
These are such tough questions, man. Coaching is coaching. Coaching, man. Really, yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, you survived that segment, and now on to the interview, Darnell. So, my first question for you: you're the founder of, and please correct me and forgive me if I'm pronouncing it wrong, Sod Sport. Did I pronounce that okay? Can you correct me?
Yeah. So it's Sadyaya.
Yes.
Sadyaya Sport. That's where we started, and now it's SVA Sport. So SVA Sport, that's a little easier to pronounce, right? Just
Yeah.
SVA Sport. Obviously, Satyaya comes from ancient Niyama, meaning self-study, and so that's how the company started, as far as meditation and yoga, and these practices where we can tap into ourselves, right? We study ourselves, self-awareness, emotional awareness. Something that really sticks out to me is Bruce Lee. Like, Bruce Lee was the master of all these things that we're going to talk about. When you talk about mindfulness and meditation, Bruce Lee was a moving meditation, but he had a quote that saying, you are your own opponent. And, that's what this is about, is understanding that mindfulness is just about being better today than you were yesterday.
Okay. I like that. And can you tell me, for you exactly, when did you start this company and what was the inspiration behind creating it?
Yeah, so this started this company about 2 years ago. The vision, actually, I think the vision came about 2015. I was doing my yoga teacher training, and I remember being, we had class, and every class we'd have like a word of the day, and one of the days, that word of the day was Sadyaya. And the teacher, he would have us, he would have us say these words, 3 times. I want you to say Sa-ya-ya 3 times. What really stuck to me that day was the ya-ya. So I always used to mess around with people, ya-ya, ya-ya. But as I got deeper into my training and started understanding more about yoga and meditation and how that related to baseball, when I was playing baseball, I always had coaches talking, tell us, you need to focus, you need to concentrate. We talk about playing the game pitch to pitch. So I started to understand how these are ways to practice doing just that. Um, being in the moment. Or what I tell guys is basically we're practicing being in the zone. Because when you're in the zone and, you're playing your best, you're doing all these things naturally. You're already in this meditative state. So the good news is that you can practice doing just that, being in the moment, and even more importantly, reorientating or noticing when you're not in the moment and refocusing, resetting.
And I think, Darnell, hearing that you were able to make that connection, now while you were getting your license, and really reflecting on, how similar they are. Especially the quote that sticks out to me is when you said, when you are hot, and you're on a streak, you're actually already practicing a lot of these things when you're at your best, and then also just trying to better yourself every day. And it's awesome, and congratulations for being able to start this company 2 years ago now, and I'm really seeing it pay off now. I mean, I imagine every day, every week presents a new challenge for you and a new client that gets you hungry to just share meditation practices, mindfulness practices each day.
Yeah, it is, man. It's a huge challenge. I feel like, it's everything. It's all a process, right? We always talk about process. I spent a lot of time in the minor leagues, and I think about the time that I spent there in the minor leagues and how many days that I wasted, or how many at bats I wasted thinking about being somewhere else. I don't think anyone that's in the minor leagues was going to tell you, yeah, I want to be in the minor leagues, right? You want to be somewhere else. You want to be in the big leagues. But it wasn't until I started to understand that I'm going to, focusing on this task at hand, being the best today where I'm at, is going to allow me to get to ultimately where I want to get to go, where I want to be in the future, and that's in the big leagues. And so it took me a lot of at bats and a lot of failure and just I would say, obviously experience to start to understand this stuff. And so, that's really why I'm passionate about teaching these things to, not only players, but everyone, because no matter what we're doing, we're going to do it better when we're in the present moment, and so that's the key, is focusing on the process. And, that's what the process says, being present. So when we get out of that process, that's when there's, stress and anxiety, and we're either thinking too far in the future, about something that we don't have control over, that hasn't happened, or we're thinking in the past. And so we learn that, happiness and freedom, all these things happen in the present moment.
I mean, that's a great way to put it. And that's exactly, I believe, what I try and stress what anxiety is too, is when we are too worried about the future, we kind of ruminate too much in the past instead of just glancing at it. Darnell, can you share, were there any pioneers in the game of, just teaching mental skills or specifically mindfulness? Anybody that helped you or continues to help you today really continue to promote this lifestyle? Was there anybody in your early career that that really was motivating for you?
I would say it happened later in my career, and
Okay.
that's obviously, being able to have the opportunity to work and learn from Ken Revisa. Rest in
Yes.
peace, Ken Revisa, but he was a pioneer in sports psychology. And if you check out some of the books that he wrote as far as Heads Up Baseball,
Yes.
I think there's Heads Up Baseball 1 and 2, and I think a 2.5, he touches on, some of the breathing and being in the moment. And, he talks about a pre-pitch routine. Okay, which basically a pre-pitch routine is a resource. It's a resource that you go to when you are out of whack. And you start becoming aware of, okay, man, the game's speeding up on me. Maybe you swung at a bad pitch, the umpire made a bad call. Instead of MFing the umpire or being pissed off, it's a time to take a step back, take that breath, release the last pitch, give yourself a plan for the next pitch, and then get back in the batter's box or get back on the pitcher's mound. And so that's how you play the game, pitch to pitch. He also talked about, the mental game is about can you give 100% to the next pitch? All right. So a lot of times it's not, this pitch that gets us. It's our thoughts about the last pitch or the pitch before that gets us. So the challenge for all, athletes or people is, can you give it 100% to that next moment? Because that's the only moment that matters.
Yes. Yeah, and I appreciate you bringing him up because I remember meeting him, may he rest in peace, before he passed in a conference in Arizona, actually a couple of years ago, and he was sharing with me about control and not focusing on what you can't control, but what you can, and how helpful that is, and reducing such things as anxiety. And I know he worked with Joe Madden for a long time while he was with the Angels, and also, of course, with the Chicago Cubs, but also Evan Longoria. And I remember watching a video on how he focuses on the pull to bring him back to the present. Are there any athletes currently that when you're watching a game, what are some things that you notice that help you tell if a player is utilizing mindfulness or meditation techniques, or that he or she is practicing being present? I know while I'm watching the Cubs, I sometimes, a lot of the time, will see, Wilson Contreras take that deep breath in. You hear a lot of players as well, such as Kyle Schwarber, talking about focusing on what he can control. So I'm just curious to hear what are some things you notice yourself too.
You got it, man. That's it. You see, guys, you take the breath, that's the breath and the body are always in the present moment, so anytime you want to become present, you take a conscious breath. Any conscious breath that you take is a meditation. And the key is to see how many conscious breaths you can take throughout the day. And, if you're in athletics or you're playing a baseball game, can you take that conscious breath when it's bases loaded, 2 outs, 3-2 count, or, 0-2 count? And not only that's going to get you, it's going to do so many things. It gets you present. You first become aware of the breath, and then you learn how to breathe, right? There's different kind of breaths that you can take. Yeah. Another thing that Ken touched on is finishing the breath, and that's where all the magic happens. Finishing that exhale. Those are things that are going to slow you down.
Yes. Yeah, I appreciate you making that point too, because it's very easy to forget. And one thing, when you're saying conscious breath and you're actually counting conscious breaths, I imagine first that you mean that's purposeful and intentional, correct?
Absolutely. So we're breathing, all day long. obviously, or you die if you don't breathe, you
Yeah.
know. So that conscious breath is, this person cuts you off on the road, you can cuss them out, and you can react, or you can take that conscious breath and give yourself a choice to cuss them out or do something that might be more productive.
Yes.
Same thing, baseball terms, man. Umpires make bad calls. You swing, you swing at bad pitches. You throw a bad pitch. Um, can you take that conscious breath and basically create space? That's what the mindfulness is. You're creating space, and you're giving yourself a choice of how you want to respond. Um,
Yeah.
it's I was gonna say, I think you probably heard people say it's not what happens, but it's how you respond to what happens.
Yes.
And, that's the important thing. So when you talk about intention and purpose, the more things that we can do with that, intention and purpose, the better.
Yes.
All
And
the way down
Darnell.
to breathing.
Yes. Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But yeah, I wanted to ask you, one, how long did that take you to practice? Because obviously, sometimes we forget that mental skills is a lot like physical training. It takes time and practice to really craft it and master it. How long did it take you, Darnell? And going back to the umpire example, did you ever get ejected in a game?
I don't know if I got ejected, but I've definitely cussed some umpires out.
Okay.
I definitely, there was a lot of pitches that I gave away that I wasn't 100% committed to that pitch. Um, and back to the master. I don't, the thing that I love about this stuff, yoga, meditation, all these practices, I look at it, as I retired, this was my competition, right? So, that's one of the things when you retire, you've been doing something all your life, you know, and I think the biggest thing that you miss is that competition. Um, and look at yoga, it's like it's something that you never master these things. That's why they're called practices. So it's a continual practice. And there's times, shoot, man, I fell into my own depression of some sort, and getting stuck and stopped doing a lot of these practices. And and another reason why I am passionate about this, these things and mental health awareness and giving people resources, because when we get depressed or diseases, a lot of diseases and stuff is from, being stuck, stagnant. And
Yes.
so, these practices are about moving energy, um, and help me in more ways than one that way.
Yeah, and I appreciate you sharing that too. And it's a reminder of what you shared earlier is that we continue to learn every day. We're always a student. And although you're a teacher in your craft, being a mental skills coach, even you today are continuing to hold that title of being a student. So, Darnell, as a baseball player, you played for multiple historical franchises, including the Minnesota Twins, Cincinnati Reds, New York Yankees, Boston Red Sox, Baltimore Orioles, where you began your career, and the Chicago Cubs, where you finished your career and received a World Series ring 3 years later. Congratulations for that, by the way. So, for many of us who had dreams of being professional athletes, we know making it to the big leagues isn't an easy thing. Um, can you share any memories you have either with each organization or the moments that really stick out to you when you reflect back on your career?
Oh, so many, so many. Let me see where I start, man. Obviously, getting drafted in '97 out of high school with the Baltimore Orioles. Having a team believe in you, to draft you out of high school was huge. Um, And probably the next one for me is going to the Cincinnati Reds, making the team out of camp. Um, when I got to camp with the Reds, and this is after, I don't know, I've been, on my journey for probably 6-7 years without ever making a team out of spring training. I went to camp with the Reds. I remember showing up the first day, and I think my number was 81. 81. Okay, and I don't know, for those of you exactly,
Football wide receiver.
Exact Terrell Owens. So for those of you that don't know about, like, how numbers work in baseball and spring training, if you see a guy with a number 81 or a really high number, that's probably a guy that really doesn't have a shot to make the team. All right. So I'm going through spring training. My locker's way in the back around like a whole bunch of other lockers. We'd have meetings. I'd have to walk around like, 2 other rows of lockers just to get to the meeting. Guys started getting, they start cutting the numbers down. I remember the clubby asking me, do you want us to move your locker? I'm like, no, man, just keep me right here. And I don't want to switch up the mojo. And so we get down to like the last day. We have an exhibition game. We fly back to Cincinnati. The team wasn't set. We get to Cincinnati, and Dusty Baker calls me in his office and tells me, you made the team.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow, man. And, obviously I felt like I was crying, and there's so many just mixed emotions. And
of course,
he proceeded that by saying, and you're starting opening day tomorrow versus Johan Santana.
Oh man, Santana. Okay.
Yes. The Johan Santana.
Yeah.
So not only like I'm excited, I'm obviously made the team, and he's like, you're starting tomorrow. And to say I was excited, nervous, all these things in one, and I could have used the mindfulness. And for that game, I ended up getting a hit. I think I was 1 for 3, but I don't think I took a breath the whole game. So that was a huge moment. And I ended up getting sent down that year. But when I got sent down that year, I went down with a different attitude this time. I went down the attitude of, I'm going to go down here and work on the things that I need to work on to get back to the big leagues. And, I ended up getting called back up that year, finished the season strong. And the following year is when I signed with the Boston Red Sox. But if it wasn't for Dusty Baker, because at that time I'd been on my journey for some years now, and really, hadn't had any opportunity. And so Dusty Baker believed in me at a time where, maybe I didn't believe in myself or believe in the system as much anymore. And he basically put me on the map. And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to sign with the Boston Red Sox. Another story with the Boston Red Sox, I went to camp. I ended up getting hurt, so I was out, like 2-3 weeks with a oblique strain. Went down to the minor leagues. Again, I was, disappointed, start the season in the minor leagues, but I went with the mindset of, I'm going to go down here and I'm going to put up the type of numbers where they're going to have no choice but to call me up.
Yeah.
So it was 2 weeks, I think it was about 2 weeks into the season. And, the AAA manager calls me in and says, we're going to call you up to the big leagues tomorrow. A couple guys got hurt, but you're going to go up there. Not sure if we're going to activate you because, they got to see if these guys can't play. but you're going up there. But so when I get on the plane, I go up there. It's actually myself and Josh Reddick. We're waiting for him to call us and tell us, okay, yeah, come over the field. We're going to activate you. So he gets the call. I'm still at the hotel waiting. But in my mind, I'm like, I'm not going back. And so I'm calling myself up regardless, But anyway, they called, hey, come over the field. We're going to activate you. And this is like 5:30, 6 o'clock. The game's at 7:05.
Wow.
Like, yeah. So
you're talking about an hour before.
An hour before, head over to the field, get there. Clubbies again are like, what number do you want? I had number 54 in spring training. That time I was so happy to be there. I was like, man, I don't care. This is fine. Just leave my number 54.
Yeah, give me 100. Anything.
Yeah, exactly. I would have taken that 81. So I get there, no batting practice, nothing. Put my uniform on. Game starts. And so we get to the eighth inning, and Mr. Terry Francona tells me, if so-and-so gets on base, you're going to pinch hit. Oh, okay, damn. Well, so-and-so gets on base. All right, pinch hit. Let's go, Mac. Here you go. And that at bat, that game actually, if it wasn't for that game, I probably wouldn't be here now. So I end up hitting a home run, my first at bat with the Red Sox. I come back up, and yeah, man, exactly, unbelievable. I come back up in the ninth inning, bases loaded, 2 outs. The same situation that I would always put myself in as a kid, playing wiffle ball, playing in the tennis courts with my brother. It's always bases loaded, 2 outs, games on the line. And so when I actually was in that real situation at Fenway Park, out of all places, I felt like I had already been there, and I hadn't taken any batting practice, anything. But do you think I was thinking about that? No, I was not. And so I end up hitting a ball off the wall, and I'm rounding the bases, win the game. And if you watch it, like my expression, like I really didn't know. Like I was happy, and it was like a dream, but it really didn't hit me till I turned around and I see, my teammates charging at me. So,
I mean, these are the stories that people like me who watch the game, we don't get to, we have no idea what the behind the scenes, like what's leading up to it. So hearing that you got activated an hour before, and then you are also the name that ends the game, ties the game, and then ends it. I mean, that's every child's dream right there, especially at a historical park like Fenway.
And I didn't realize how big it was until the next day, right? So the next day, and I was commuting because I was in Pawtucket, the AAA. I was still staying down there. So the next day, I'm commuting back up to Fenway. Speed trap, I get pulled over. Cop pulls me over. Yeah, I get pulled over. Can I get your ID? I give the cop my ID. He looks, and he's like, great game yesterday, Mr. McDonald. Just want to let you know, like, we have speed traps here. Just make sure you're careful. Have a great day. And that's when it kind of put things in perspective. Like, man, like the Red Sox Nation does not play. Like, Red Sox Nation is a real thing. Like, these people, baseball it's a religion there. And that's when I kind of started to understand how big that moment was. Again, if it wasn't for that moment or being ready for that moment, I probably wouldn't be here talking to you right now, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and Darnell, I understand you're a humble guy. I can tell with every question experience you answer. But I imagine at that moment, I mean, come on, man, you had to feel like the guy after getting that game-ending single off the monster and then being, not given a ticket. the next day. I mean, that's gotta it's gotta feel surreal.
It was, yeah, man, absolutely, it's surreal. Also at that time, like it was, I was practicing mindfulness and not even knowing it because everything was a gift from there. Like my thing was, man, I'm not even supposed to be here right now, So I approached every day, but just to have fun. I'm gonna go out here and have fun. I obviously enjoyed playing there because that's like playing in your backyard, and it really raised my level of play, being able to play in an atmosphere like that where these fans, they demand your best every day. And I really enjoyed that. I really appreciated that. And that was kind of like my welcome to the big leagues moment, playing with the Red Sox. That's when I really felt like a big leaguer. And to be able to be surrounded by so many, Hall of Fame players, it's Big Poppy. You know what I'm saying? That's the majority. Like, the list goes on, and watching these guys, that's how I learned to be a big leaguer. And that's what I tell kids today. If you want to be a big leaguer, you watch big leaguers. Okay? Those are experts. And so that's what I did. And some of those same habits that these guys had, routines, and they all had a lot of things in common. They're all very different, but they all had routines and they all had fun playing the game. Even Euclid.
Yes. Even you. There you go. So from one historical park to another, myself being a longtime Cubs fan, I've never been to a home game. I mean, I've been to 5 away Cubs games, San Diego, Fenway, Philadelphia, but I've driven to the Wrigleyville for Game 3 of the World Series 2016 from Massachusetts, but I've never been inside the actual park. Can you share what your experiences there were like as a player as well as a coach?
Yeah, so as a player, obviously I think we lost 100 games, so that was, but the thing about it was you wouldn't have known it. You wouldn't have known you lost 100 games because the fans still loved you.
The rebuilding years.
Yeah. You imagine if you lose 100 games in Boston, like you order in. You don't even go get your food. So
you're getting that ticket.
Right. You know what I mean? So that was kind of, it was a different experience to see, like, man, these people come to the games regardless. And I could only imagine, like, man, if the team's winning, just imagine what type of party it's going to be here. And so I remember it was the last home game, my last game as a big leaguer. And, I grew up in Denver, and we didn't have a professional team while I was there. So I watched a lot of Cubs games on TV. And WGN, I wanted to be like the Hawk, Sean Dunston, obviously Rhino. So I watched these guys, and that last game, I'm like, man, I gotta hit at least one in the basket. I gotta hit a homer. Like that. And true story. This is what I'm telling guys before the game. I can't leave here without a homer. And sure enough, believe it or not, I hit me a homer at Wrigley, and that was my last game at Wrigley as a player.
Do you remember who was off or who you were playing?
We were playing the Pittsburgh Pirates. It was off of Francisco Liriano. And if people don't tell you they don't remember all their homers, they're lying. I remember I think it was every 20 of them homers that I hit in the big leagues. I remember every one of them.
Yep.
So yeah, it was off of Francisco Liriano. I remember being on the on deck circle, and I think they were winning. It was either 2-1 or 3-1, and Francisco Liriano's a left-handed pitcher. Okay, and so I'm a right-handed hitter. It was, I pitched a great game up until that point. He was beating us. And so they have a right-handed guy warming up. He's ready. So I remember being on deck circle, and I'm looking into the other dugout. I'm looking at Clint Hurdle. Like, okay, are you going to go get him? You're gonna go get him. You're gonna bring in the righty. And he's chewing his gum. He's just looking.
As
And
always,
so,
yeah.
yeah, he's chewing his gum. He's looking at me. And so he didn't go get him. He didn't go get Liriano. And my mindset was, man, that's disrespectful. You know what
I'm
I'm
gonna make
saying?
him pay.
Exactly. So, it ended up working out. I hit the homer. I cross home plate, and I remember staring back in the dugout, and there's Ken Hurdle chewing his gum.
Chew on that.
So these are just little things that just stick out. And not only that, that was awesome, but to, celebrate with my teammates. They're like, yeah, you said you're gonna do it. You said you're gonna do it. And I'm like, yeah. So
Yeah,
that
you
was
faced some great.
unbelievable.
Yeah, you faced some great southpaws in your career. I mean, we've already mentioned Kershaw, Liriano, and Santana. Two of those guys still in the bigs. I mean, you've had quite
Well,
the career.
you can
Um,
imagine the AL East. Imagine this is the guys that I had to make a living off. That's how I had to feed my family off of these, CC Sabathia, David Price, Ricky Romero. Like that's pretty stressful, man. Pretty stressful at bats. But if I wasn't like I said, I was playing with house money. So you're supposed to get me out, and that's how I approached it. But really to be a part of, the 2016 and to see, you mentioned that game 3. I remember that. I think it was John Lester pitched that game, maybe. I think it was John Lester. I think he pitched that game.
it might have been Lackey, unless Lackey pitched game 4. But yeah, I just remember feeling like the curse because they lost games 3 and 4 when I was there. And then as I was driving out, they won game 5 with Chapman with the save.
That's what it was. Yeah, it was. Yeah, everyone was down. Here we go again. Then the left-hander pitched that game 5 and got.
It was Lester who pitched game 5. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, he got the boys back on the map. And then obviously traveling to Cleveland and experiencing that game 7. I'm not even gonna lie, man. When Rajay Davis hit that homer, there was a second where I was like, man,
it's
like
true.
This ain't messing around. This curse is this is real stuff.
Yes.
Like, damn, here we go. Like,
You and everybody else thought the same exact thing.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, but the baseball gods, that rain delay, and it was a magical season from start to finish, and there's another situation where you couldn't write a script any better than how it all played out. And so to see the boys pull together and win that game 7 and to be able to see the celebration in Chicago, that's something that you can't even put into words. Seeing millions and millions of people lined up for miles. I've never seen that many happy people in one place. And, it's obviously something I'll never forget. If you can imagine what a 108-year celebration would look like, well, it was that times 10, so, cool stuff.
Yeah, Darnell, congratulations again for receiving a ring. And us fans don't realize the work that's behind the scenes. And I know with your assistance being a mental skills coach, a lot of the guys we did see that play a part with their resilience. And I'm sure you know how big of a word that is in the bigs, and it was definitely conveyed that year. And again, congratulations. So we have a couple more questions here. Again, we have Mr. Darnell McDonald here on the Nebraska Gentleman. You talked a lot about the great moments in the big leagues. Do you mind sharing maybe what some of those hard moments that us fans don't realize or see? Something maybe now that you wish you utilized then as a player. So that's kind of a two-parter. Maybe some of the tough times in the leagues that we don't see as fans, and then something you wish you utilized then with something you know now.
All right, yeah. Obviously, man, I spent a lot of time in the minor leagues. I touched on, I signed in '97. I went to big league camp every year as a professional, and each year getting sent down, they're saying, okay, you're not going to make the team. Even the years that like I went in and I really didn't expect to make the team, it didn't make that any easier for me hearing that, you know. Um, so that, and there, there was times in my career where, man, even my closest friends questioning like, man, what are you doing? Um, man, it's time to do something else. You know, and this is, my closest friends. So I'm like, man, maybe they're right. But at the same time that, the same ones when it got to the Red Sox, like, man, I'll be out there. Can you give me tickets to that game, Yankees, Red Sox? No, but not only the grind of baseball. You're playing a game that you're gonna fail more than you succeed. All right, and if you're a hitter, you fail 7 out of 10 times, you're still a good player, right? You're a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
So imagine that. What else can you do that you can fail 7 out of 10 times and be good? With that being said, man, how you deal with that failure is the key, right? Or what you perceive as failure, because also baseball is a game where you can do everything right and still not get the result. So does that mean you failed? So you got to really be aware of how you are perceiving what's going on. Um, so yeah, dealing with failure, um, being sent down, being released, uh, being, the 25th man on the roster to, going from super prospect to basically you're fighting to have a job on a minor league team. You know what I'm saying? So, um, I didn't touch on that. We touched on all the highlights. So these are like the lowlights. There was I got, popped for steroids in one of those years, man. And these are all like learning lessons for me about, the process, man. And there's no magic pills or anything substitute for the process and experience. And so you go through these things and you learn to embrace this stuff. And when you are able to have moments like we talked about, man, it makes them even, that much more gratifying, man, when you have persevered like that. Um, when you talk about anything else that, if I do differently is understanding that, um, it wouldn't be go back to do any more like physical practice. Like I was really gifted physically from a young age, right? Like I was the number one high school prospect coming out of high school when I signed. Um, but the thing, my second year of pro ball, my mother passed away. Then you get conditioned by all this failure or all these, coaches saying you can't do this or, all this stuff happens in between that time of when you sign and getting to the big leagues. And, the thing I would change is understanding that the mental game is a skill. So this is a skill that you can develop just like you develop your swing, just like you develop throwing a pitch down and away. Well, you can develop your mental game. When I was coming up playing, we had some sports psychs, obviously Ken Revisa, but it was a situation like, okay, well, you don't talk to these people. You only talk to these people if you messed up in the head or, something's going on in your life. Um, and so, you know, helping develop the mental skills program with the Cubs is an approach where, man, you don't have to be sick to get better. This is a skill. We're talking about skills that you can develop. And so that's what I would go back and change is understanding that and working more on those things, right? Being present, being in the moment, We talked about, controlling the controllables, visualization, uh, you know, confidence, all these things um, that play a big part in you executing what you want to execute, or all the hard work that you put in. You need to understand that you can do all this practice and, all this cage work and all whatever. But number one, if you get in the box or you get in a picture and you don't believe that you can get the job done, like, okay, right there, that work is null and void. And then, um, not only believing, but being able to give 100% to the next pitch, this pitch right here. And, these are all, you do these mental skills. It doesn't guarantee you success. It doesn't guarantee you that you're gonna execute. But what it does do is you're gonna give yourself the best chance to do that. All right. And so, as a player or as anyone, that's all you want, man. That's your job, to give yourself the best chance to execute whatever it is you want to execute. And you can do that. You're going to do it better from a calm, clear space. Um, there's so many things that obviously, I tell guys, you think of the like meditation practice as a, a reset, like you're clearing space out. So if you have this circle and there's a bunch of stuff in that circle, and you have a bunch of dots filled with all this conditioning, past failures, and all this stuff that goes on, you think about the meditation as, okay, we're just wiping a little bit of that away, clearing space so that you can put new information in there. Right? And so that's where all the magic happens, when we're able to just have no judgment, and this is just what it is. I'm here. Let's go. Like when they call you over to the game, you don't take BP or anything. It's just like, okay, I'm here. You know what I'm saying? So your body, you've done these things thousands of times. Like by that time I had swung a bat thousands of times since I was a kid. So my body knows how to swing a bat. Now the key is be able to stay out of your own way, right? And allow yourself to swing that bat like you know how to swing it. And it's easier said than done.
Yes, yes. Yeah, and Darnell, I really love the way you compare that to clearance space out. Those past failures, being able to just wipe them all away. I thought that's something that's going to stick with me forever. The last couple questions I have for you, Darnell, and again, I appreciate you really taking this time. For someone like myself who is looking to one day continue helping athletes build mental skills on and off the field, what are tips you have for creating your business? I know a lot of my colleagues, we just graduated a couple of years ago now, and we're still in the process of starting our own private practice. What are some tips you'd have for all of us?
Similar to what I taught about, like becoming a big leaguer. You want to be a big leaguer, watch big leaguers. Same thing with the business. I'm finding, you want to start a business or do these things. Hopefully you can find someone that's done this already, and you ask a lot of questions. Right? I really got lucky to be able to be a part of a mastermind and people of, again, what I call experts. They've done these things already, and they've done it for a long time at a high level. And so you ask questions. This is another reason why these practices are so vital, because the non-judgment, being free and be able to be free and authentic, right? Being free and authentic is going to allow you to ask the right questions. And a lot of times for me, it's tough for me because I want to do everything myself, man. I want to do it myself, and I don't have a lot of patience. So I started understanding that I don't have a lot of patience. Those are things that I need to work on to do these other things that are really important to starting a business and understanding that there's a process to that, man. There's just like the minor leagues, there's a process, and you don't need a home run. You don't need a home run like a single and another single and another single, and those things add up to create great things. But not only that, but I'll just say the number one thing is just, man, you're really passionate about something. People are obviously going to buy, your passion and your authenticity towards what you're presenting to them. And, lastly is, it's connection. It's all about connection and relationships. Those are the most important things. You have that, you create those things, and a lot of the other stuff is a byproduct of that.
Awesome, Darnell. Thank you. Who do you? Well, let me start by asking you this: how can people reach you, Darnell? Your services that you provide, whether it be on social media. How can many of us who are listening reach you?
Yeah, so you can find me at svasport.com. It's the website. The Instagram, same thing, SVA Sport. And so, yeah, I look forward to any and everyone. Come reach out, ask questions, give me feedback, whatever you got. I appreciate it, and I welcome it.
Awesome. Darnell, I've always enjoyed your posts. And thank you so much for taking this time. You gave me even extra time, and I truly appreciate it. I can't really explain to you how much this means to me. I'm trying to really practice my own mindfulness right now by maintaining a calm, cool, collected composure right now. Lastly, who do you got in the World Series this year from the AL and the NL? And then who do you think will win? If you're allowed to answer that question. If not, I'll totally respect you by not. It's okay.
Shoot, man, the Cubs look really good. Cubs look really good. AL, shoot, man. Obviously, the season the Red Sox had last year reminded me of the season the Cubs in 2016. It's a magical year.
I agree.
I don't know if they can go back to back. Obviously, I'm rooting for them, but yeah, it'd be cool. Wouldn't it be cool to see Cubs, Red Sox?
It's something my best friend Gamer and I have been wanting for a long time. He's a big Red Sox fan, and I think the baseball world would love that.
Yeah, that would be, it wouldn't, don't get better than that. Cubs, Red Sox, I'm sure TV wants it. Everyone wants it. So, maybe we'll manifest that.
So many mutual players within those organizations too, past and present, including yourself. Lastly, Darnell, I don't want to take up more of your time, but is there any final words, tips, or advice that you give to anybody really? Maybe it's somebody like myself who's wanting to get more into yoga. I did it one time in California a couple years ago, and I've been wanting to do it again. I just haven't been conscious of, looking out there to see what's out there. What are some tips you have for somebody that's on the cusp of deciding whether to practice mindfulness, meditation, yoga, and really being present?
Start small, small chunks throughout the day, add up. Don't try to conquer the world at one time. And there's different ways that you can practice mindfulness and or cultivate mindfulness. I understand that everyone doesn't want to do yoga and everyone doesn't want to, sit and meditate. Start small, some journaling, picking one meal a day to eat mindfully, basically. And you can come check out SVA Sport. There you go. You come check out SVA Sport, and we will help you do that. And you can join me every day there at 9:30 Mountain Time to meditate 4 minutes. And I think if we got 4 minutes. We're talking about 4 minutes. You know what I'm saying? That's about the length of Puff Daddy's song, right? So to work on yourself, man. Take 4 minutes for yourself to strengthen your mind and your body. So I welcome you to do that the rest of May for Mental Health Awareness Month. But yeah, I would say start small. Start small, and just like anything else, it's just about consistency. And you start to understand, the way I started doing yoga is, I went because people said you need to work on your flexibility. So I started, going to do some yoga. And then when I would leave, I would always leave. I'd be feeling really good. And so it wasn't until I got deeper in my practice where I started to understand, well, I leave feeling good because ultimately I'm practicing being present, So I tell people this is the happiness practice, yoga, meditation, mindfulness, because happiness happens in the present moment. And so that's why it's really important to cultivate gratitude, right? So, and whatever that we focus on the most, and our thoughts, becoming aware, it's really important to become aware of our thoughts, because whatever we focus on the most, that's what persists in our life, right? And so these are ways to be happy. And it's kind of like, I look at it like you check off so many boxes at one time. And that's why I just feel like yoga is such a beautiful practice. It's a holistic practice where you can basically work your entire body and mind and at one time. So again, it's not something where, you have to do this. But I do recommend that you find something that you can kind of chip away at this and develop skill, get better at being present, being happy, being mindful, and also think about it this way: like the greatest gift that you can give anyone, and I know the people that have kids can relate to this, is being present. That's the greatest gift you can give anyone. And so the good news is that you can practice just that. You can practice being present, and it doesn't take any talent to do this. We all can get better at it. So there you go, Nidu, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, Darnell.
Keep up the good work, man.
Yes, thank you so much. In Igbo culture, we would say dalu as a way of saying thank you again for your time, just the knowledge you shared, and I'm so looking forward to the continued effectiveness you have on other people. And again, I just can't thank you enough for the time you gave me. I really appreciate it, sir.
Dalu.
Take care, Darnell. Thank you.
All right, boss.